Hi, welcome to the second part of the end of the Capitalism and Its Alternatives lecture of the Marxian Economics course. This lecture is series is prepared for the Middle Technical University Northern Cyprus campus. And last time we have talked on the different problems that become more severe in capitalist system. The main thing we should maybe and for all of these problems, which I actually between each part there is a break, and I thought whether this the way I mentioned you the problems become more were too complex for you. Although, well, for all of those problems and for all of the terminology related to problems, you can refer to the previous parts. To some extent, actually, what I had actually made there was a summary. To repeat that summary, in capitalist system, at the very end, and actually the trends of the capitalist system actually bring us with a condition where number of companies get smaller and smaller. Even though this monopolization relieves those trends to some extent, in the end, whenever the number of companies gets stable, you get those trends again. You have increasing unemployment, increasing severity of the overproduction crisis, which are created by two trends. First, increase whenever the unemployment hits to a boundary level. Basically, the profits starts to squeeze, and in order to relieve this pressure, the in order to relieve this pressure, basically, within the economic system, the unemployment rate needs to increase back to high levels. But when it is too high, then there is too little demand, and then again, unemployment needs to be decreased and profit level needs to be increased. So in a way, profits are either go to a very low level because of too low unemployment rate, or they might go to a low level because of the lack of demand. So they are between those two boundaries, and the lowest possible unemployment level that allows the system to go smooth gets higher and higher as time passes, because you need higher unemployment to have a higher exploitation rate in the system. So the system needs higher and higher exploitation rate also, because non-labor costs for the companies gets higher and higher in time as organic composition of capital rises, and profit rates on average gets lower and lower. I mean, the trend of profit rates is also going down as system progresses. At the beginning phase of the system can relatively handle these problems because there is much room to expand both in the societies into different sectors, but also geographically. And geographically, I mean both to different countries, but also to the different regions of the same country, like more villages, different areas which were previously self-sufficient, basically. And the workforce is unorganized. They are mostly living in self-sufficient places. And basically, capitalist system kinds of bring those people together and basically teach them how to work together in the same factories, and even changing jobs and working in next month in a different factory with very different people. And they need to learn to adjust quickly to this new labor force. So this huge region and huge space in sectoral space, social space to expand gives the system, let's say, well, a ground which it can use to remain stable for a while. And the system increases the production level. That's one thing that capitalist system does. It increases production level continuously. It needs this growth, and but while doing that, it usually does it by producing from the same thing more and more. It can create innovations. It can create new products, but this tendency of the capitalist system is less dominant compared with the other tendency, which is producing from the same thing more. And producing from the same thing more is not a bad thing. If people are living in poverty, you have more food, more clothing. But after a certain point, you meet a threshold, and that more food and more clothing, more cars, having 4 or 5 cars, I mean, United States people have, for example, might not be a better way to progress. You might rather have a better social organization, a socialized transportation system, maybe better parks, maybe different products, maybe to improve your life even further, instead of having, let's say, just bigger apartments, bigger or thousands of clothes, I don't know, disposable plates, for example. And that's the other thing, actually. All of this expansion also puts a stress, both finding demand, especially when you need higher unemployment rate, higher reserve army. Plus, it also puts a stress on the environment, also. And after a certain point, it might even fail to increase the living standards. I mean, the quality of life, let's say, sufficiently. That might be the limit of the capitalist system, by the way. And meanwhile, for the Marx at least, the main force that will, in the end, the main thing that will, in the end the capitalist system is what Marx calls proletariat, you might say global workforce. This global workforce is already taught by capitalist system how to work together, how to work in the same workplace together. This learning process is maybe still continuing. For example, with this increasing migration globally, now people from the different countries start to learn how to work together with people from in different countries and people from the different countries also. And they learn, even change their countries, live in a different country if necessary. And even if they stay in the same country, they still need to learn how to live with other workers also. So Marx predicts this process in the end will teach the workers also how to cooperate together for their own interests. At this stage, they will work within the capitalist system for their interests. And in the end, to the global labor force, he never thought about the national labor force, even though this process, this cooperation had happened in the 20th century mostly at the national levels, not in global level in full sense. Global level, they were just maybe sharing some experiences, but they were not a global actual coordination in countries. I mean, it never get to that point globally. And then they will learn how to run the system, economic system, globally. Meanwhile, before they were able to do that, capital is actually uniting the economic system globally, which might be the process which has just have been completed in the 21st century. Before 21st century, maybe we still didn't have a truly global economy. I mean, we had a global economy. We have fairly connected countries, but still the entities were separate. Now even the entities become more connected to each other. Now even to some extent we cannot easily isolate the national economies from each other. Previously, we can isolate and we can just define the rest of the global economy according to what they take, what each country takes and gives back in return. Even this becomes difficult in today's world. So the economy will be anyway globalized, and once global labor force becomes sufficiently connected and organized to run it, and before that they should learn how to work together and how to cooperate together, they will be ready to take over the world economic system, and they will run the world economic system as the global labor force. So this is the background, basically. So from this background, and there is much to say, much more to say actually, especially the progress that will be brought by the capitalist system, the way capitalist system will actually evolve the world economic system. There is much to say on this. Actually, it's not a simple thing. And the more I think about it, the more I study Marxian economics, the more I even discover myself the conditions of the end of social capitalist system, and as well as the actual progress, actual thing, which actual benefits that are brought by the capitalist system. Now, I think this is important to understand also. We should not, from the very beginning, Marxism in both fronts, in all fronts, wants to be scientific, and we need to discover the way society runs, the way the secrets of social organization, if you want even to make the world a better place. And I also believe that we should have actual different, there should be different fronts in this. And personally, I want to be at the front, which is discovering how the society is organizing. That information is very necessary, very important in my opinion. But we should be ready to challenge the things that are difficult to challenge. There are certain things difficult to challenge in the neoclassical economics, but there are also certain things difficult to challenge in the Marxian economics. Anyway, well, throughout all, considering all this story, what will be the end? Marx and Engels very much believe in collapse hypothesis. As the system becomes this progressive, and as the capitalist class itself gets more fragile, because their profits are low, the progress that is brought by the system is less common. Being a capitalist itself will become something more insecure, as frequent crisis is actually threaten their position. Any front, ideologically or socially, to defend the system, in terms of benefits of the system, in terms of benefits of the system, will become very fragile, and the system itself will create more insecurity for all segments of the society. Meanwhile, the main force that could bring the end of the system, take over the system, and run the system, will become. I'm sorry, this is the thing that was hit. I keep this cologne, I believe, is in short for the corona crisis. Anyway, the main force that will become that has power to end the system, the global workforce, becomes more and more powerful as time passes. And in the end, this fragility and this power come to a point where the global workforce will just take over the economic system. When, basically, at what point? Marx did not describe that. Actually, I think right before we come to this point, if we come to this point in Marxian sense, right, we will come to this point, we will recognize it. It should be, the organization level of the workforce should be really developed to a certain point. Anyway, we will talk more about it more about the collapse hypothesis, and then go to the other options in the next part. See you in the next part.